8 a.m. this Saturday, June the 14th. Welcome to another busy news day. And we begin with breaking news. Sirens are sounding across Israel as Iran continues to launch its retaliatory strikes. 2 people have been left dead in the rocket salvos that began overnight. 60 more are wounded and a number of homes damaged. Well, Israel first struck Iran early on Friday morning, announcing its operation against the country's nuclear facilities, scientists and military commanders. Civilian areas were also hit, with over 70 people killed and more than 300 wounded. Well, in response, Iran has reportedly struck multiple targets in Israel, including military centres and air bases, with some media saying the building of the Israeli Defence Ministry damaged as well. The IDF's Iron Dome intercepted most of the missiles, but military officials acknowledge the air defence system cannot guarantee full safety. Well, Iran's retaliation may have been expected, but still surprised its adversary. The IDF spokesman was briefing reporters on Israel's preparedness when an incoming missile alert was suddenly announced, forcing the broadcast to be cut off.
First, it's a different scenario, what we are facing now. As we demonstrated, Israel has the capability to defend itself, and we are in a very good
אנו נכנסים לכוננות ספיגה. כל מי שלא תופס תפקיד מבצעי בחמ"לית נדרש להגיע או לאליפסה, לשתי יציאות המילוט, או לחלק המערבי ביותר בחניונים.
Well, Iran's supreme leader has said Israel will pay the price for its aggression against the Islamic Republic.
We will not make any concessions to them, and their lives will undoubtedly become bitter. They should not think that they attacked us, and that's it. No, they started the war. We will not allow them to escape unharmed from the great crime they committed.
Well, RT correspondent Saman Kajuri joins us now from Tehran. Morning to you, Saman. It's been an intense 24 hours, strikes, counter-strikes between Iran and Israel, and things show no sign of abating, really. Take us through the main developments and what the general mood is in the nation's capital.
Well, good morning to you, Yunan. The IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, in a statement has said that it has successfully launched a barrage of ballistic missiles and drones against targets inside Israel and successfully hitting air bases as well as missile production centers inside Israel, which were involved in Israeli operations against the people of Gaza, Palestine, and also Iran. Well, the general mood here is that right after the moments and hours after the Iranian retaliatory response to Israeli aggressions against the country, groups of Iranians took to the streets, not just in Tehran, but also in different cities, celebrating and saying that, with this retaliatory response against Israel for all its crimes against Iranians on Friday, actually, they fully support what Iran has done against Israel, because this is an act of justice which needed to be prevailed, because you know that during Israeli air raids, massive air raids, about 300 locations and sites across the country were targeted by Israel, which led to the killing of senior Iranian military commanders as well as nuclear scientists, and also civilians, among them women and children. Now people with this retaliatory response and attacks and ballistic missile attacks, as well as launch of Iranian drones against Israel, actually people are celebrating somehow that Israel is now paying the price, what it has done already against Iranian people. Well, with this all said, we should draw attention to a couple of points that, during this counterattack, better say, Iran has successfully launched a couple of ballistic missiles and successfully hit the targets. And during this operation against actually Iran from the side of Israel, Iran has successfully shot down two fifth-generation F-35 jet fighters of Israel. And that is the first time in the world, according to Iranian sources, this is the first time in the world that the fifth-generation F-35 fighter jets have been shot down. And according again to Iranian news agencies and sources like Tasnim, the female pilot of one of these fighter jets has been captured alive. So this is a development, great development for Iranian military, because this is something that definitely they can take more pride in. Well, in terms of the negotiations, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman said that with all this said, definitely it is not the case that Israel, with the support of the United States, launches invasion against Iran, and at the same time the U.S. talks about negotiations. Definitely Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai in a new development said that the talks is meaningless. So it means it might be a reference that the talks might not continue in the future. So we have to wait for further official statements in this regard. But again, Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi, regarding the Israeli attacks against Iran, has said that Iran rejects the calls for any restraint in its attacks against Israeli targets. So with all this said, and the general mood here in Iran that people are supporting Iran's retaliatory response to Israel, we have to wait for the coming hours and days to see what will be the future of such measures, attacks and counterattacks between the two sides. So as soon as we get more updates, we can come back to you, Yunan.
Yeah, thanks very much. Bringing us the very latest developments. RT Saman Kajuri live from Tehran. Well, while Israeli authorities claim there's limited damage from Iran's missile response, locals have been ordered to stay near bomb shelters. RT's Middle East Bureau Chief Maria Fanoshna reports from one safe haven in a Jerusalem neighborhood.
The last hours in Israel have been absolutely turbulent. Twice in a row, phones across the country lit up with alerts warning of incoming missile threat from Iran. The IDF confirmed that dozens of rockets were launched toward Israel, though the exact number remains unclear at this time. The Home Front Command urged civilians to stay near protected spaces, avoid gatherings and enter shelters upon hearing sirens. And the sirens were everywhere, including here in Jerusalem. We rushed to shelters twice. The first time it was tense but relatively calm, while the second the walls literally shook. The army now reports of the third wave. We are staying near the protected area as instructed by the army. In this neighborhood with relatively new buildings, there are so-called safe rooms in every house with fortified walls and strong doors. But there are also public shelters like this one that I'm going to show you right now. So we enter like this. It's right here, and you can find the address on every map. So this one is quite spacious because this is residential area and there are many people with families. Air defense systems, including Iron Dome and David Sling, were activated nationwide. The sky lit up with interceptions, loud booms followed, some allegedly from successful hits, others from debris. Footage from Tel Aviv shows what looks a lot like a direct hit, thick smoke rising between buildings, and unconfirmed reports followed, speaking of a strike on a residential structure. Explosions have also been reported throughout the area. Due to military protocol, the IDF has instructed journalists not to reveal specific locations or publish videos of the strikes, of the hits, in order to avoid what they call aiding the enemy. According to a statement from emergency services, their teams have been actively treating casualties on the ground. 5 individuals, as reported, have been injured in the central region, 1 moderately and 4 lightly from shrapnel. They've been evacuated to Israeli hospitals. 4 others are being treated for anxiety because, you know, people in Israel they're kind of used to rocket alerts. The country is at war and has been under attacks from Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen for months, but this time feels different. More tense, more volatile, and panic and anxiety rise all over the country. Reports suggest that US and allies are helping to shoot down missiles directed at Israel. All of this is unfolding, of course, as Israel's military operation against Iran continues for more than 20 hours already. The airstrikes began Friday early morning, targeting nuclear and military sites deep inside the country. Tehran vowed revenge, promising Israel would regret its actions, and this is what we see happening right now. And now it's Israel echoing the same message back. Defense Minister Katz has stated that Iran crossed red lines when it dared to fire missiles at civilian population centers in Israel, vowing to continue to protect Israeli citizens and ensure that Tehran pays a very heavy price. Well, this is definitely escalation, real, fast, and still far from over. Marie Finoshina, RT, reporting from a bomb shelter in Jerusalem.
Well, Israel is continuing its attacks on Iran as well. Local media report new waves of IDF strikes targeting Tehran International Airport and the central city of Isfahan, where Iranian air defenses attempted to shoot down the projectiles. Well, let's go live now to Jerusalem and speak to Israeli journalist and Middle East specialist Yoni Ben Menachem. You're most welcome. I say you're joining us from the Holy City. You're also joining us from a bomb shelter, I believe. So give us a sense of the situation on the ground there over the past 24 hours or so.
Well, the situation is actually, we're in the middle of an escalation. Last night there were missiles attacks from Iran on Israel. A few people were injured, and early this morning at dawn there was another missile attack from Iran, and two Israelis were killed as a result of a direct hit of a missile in the center of Israel, and a few other people were injured. And whenever there are launching of missiles, there are sirens in Israel, and people, hundreds of thousands of people are running to the shelters and waiting there until the attack will be over, while the Israeli Air Force is striking targets in Iran. The Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, he issued a warning yesterday to Iran that if they will attack innocent Israeli civilians with missiles, then there will be very severe repercussions, and Israel will retaliate strongly. And as a result of what happened last night and this morning, now we anticipate more escalation from the side of Israel, and I think that during the day we might see Israeli attacking new targets in Iran, maybe from what we hear leaks from the defense ministry, it will hit targets of the Iranian regime. So we are on a course of escalation.
How widespread is support or otherwise for the Israeli attack on Iran? Do people support yet another front being opened, or is it more seen as PM Netanyahu's crusade right now?
No, it's definitely not a crusade. There's a strong support. This is really very, very unique support of the Israeli opposition parties that are supporting Netanyahu fully on this attack on the nuclear facilities of Iran, and also the Israeli street is fully supportive of this attack because they think that Iran crossed the red lines and seriously was planning to destroy the state of Israel by nuclear bombs. So this attack is inevitable, and Israel was forced to go out on this campaign.
But it does appear that this is something that Mr. Netanyahu has been waiting for. You know, he called himself Mr. Iran. Recently, he's been comparing Iran to Nazi Germany and ramping up that, which I would imagine some people would deem as offensive, seeing as what happened to the Jewish people during the Second World War, that the extent of Iran's threat is not near what happened to the Jewish people, the 6 million who were slaughtered.
No, I think you are wrong on this point. Actually, this morning, I remembered an interview that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, gave to the New York Times in 2019. And I just checked it on the internet, and I read it. It was astonishing because he compared the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, to Hitler. And he warned already on 2019 that Khamenei is like Hitler, and he wants to drag the Middle East into a catastrophe. So this is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, not Netanyahu. So I think there's a similar feeling, not only in Israel, but also in the Sunni Arab countries in the Middle East, who are considered to be moderate and they want peace in the region. They all feel, they're all terrified from the Iranian.
Can I just say, when you say about that with the Saudi Crown Prince, there's always been that kind of contest between Iran and Saudi and Qatar. There's always been that barbed criticism from each other. But when it comes now to Netanyahu's comments during an active escalation of a conflict, you know, that kind of language is inflammatory, is it not?
Look, I agree with you. We don't have to look only at the statements of politicians. We have to look at what is happening on the ground. And what is happening on the ground, and this is according to Israeli intelligence sources and the CIA sources and European intelligence sources, and also the agency who are controlling the nuclear power, the international body which is checking Iran all the time. They're all warning that Iran is planning to manufacture a nuclear bomb. What do they need a nuclear bomb for? Why do they want to make a nuclear bomb? Now, if you take this intelligence evidence, which is, you cannot dispute about that, and you put it together with the declarations of the leaders of Iran that they want to destroy the state of Israel, so you see that this is their strategy. And Israel had to go out for this preemptive strike in Iran in order to make sure that there will be no danger of the future of the state of Israel. This is a defensive move, even though it's an Israeli attack. But in the broader sense, this is a preemptive strike to prevent Iran from using nuclear weapons against Israel.
Understood. Just to point out, Iran would dispute those intelligence conclusions, saying that they want them for civilian energy purposes and nuclear program. But I take your point.
Okay. If you want it for peaceful purposes, they can enrich uranium somewhere else. Why they're hiding it underground? Why they're building
because it would be bombed.
No, I think what President Trump offered them is a good compromise. They can have the uranium for civilian purposes, and let's get it over with, and there will be peace in the region.
All right. Okay, the thoughts of veteran Israeli journalist and commentator Yoni Ben Menachem. Stay safe yourself, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, the UN Security Council has held an emergency meeting on the escalation in the Middle East. Russia and China condemned the IDF attack on Iran, calling it a violation of the nation's sovereignty. The US supported Israel's right to self-defense, while Tehran accuses it of complicity in the latest violence.
Last night, the Israeli regime, the most dangerous and terrorist regime in the world, with full intelligence and political support from the United States regime conducted a series of coordinated and premeditated military attacks across multiple cities in Iran. Those who support this regime with the United States at the forefront must understand that they are complicit by aiding and enabling these crimes. The real motive behind the attack to kill diplomacy, to sabotage negotiation, and to drag the region into wider conflict. We will not forget that our people lost their lives as a result of the Israeli attacks with American weapons.
We waited for diplomacy to work. We gave the international community time. We watched negotiations stretched on as Iran made forced concessions or refused the most fundamental conditions. All the while, Iran continued to build toward the unthinkable. Last night, the wait ended. We acted to prevent a threat that would endanger not only Israel, but the entire world. We will not sit quietly while our people are targeted. Not again, not ever. Empty words will not stop Iran.
It seems that the leadership of Israel is convinced that it has complete freedom of action in the region and apparently believes that Israel can trample on all legal foundations and substitute itself for all international structures, including the UN Security Council and the IAEA. The Russian Federation firmly condemns this action of West Jerusalem. This is a direct consequence of the permissiveness of Western countries who have been consciously and methodically escalating anti-Iranian hysteria for months, both in the United Nations Security Council and in the Board of Governors of the IAEA.
Well, RT spoke exclusively to the first Russian deputy permanent representative to the UN right after the session, who gave us his assessment of the latest unprecedented escalation.
It's very perverted logic, I would say. Of course, every country has the right to defend itself, but in this case, Israel launched an aggression, an attack against Iran, totally violating and breaching UN Charter and international law. I don't think how it can be, really can't imagine how it be framed as legitimate self-defense. So it's some twisted logic, I think. Nobody, I think, should deny to Iran the right to peaceful exploration of nuclear energy and this usage for peaceful purposes, and that's what Iran is speaking about. Iran has repeatedly denied any plans to create nuclear bomb, and it's the most verified country in the world with the help of IAEA. And I think IAEA also was not saying that Iran is about to develop nuclear capabilities. This is interpretation, twisted interpretation from Israel and from some of its allies. So we don't support this kind of logic that some of the American representatives try to promote.
The U.S. official claims Washington was not involved in the strike on Iran. Netanyahu, however, says that he did notify the U.S. of its impending attack. This was all taking place as these negotiations between the U.S. and Iran were going on. But do you think it's actually possible that the U.S. was not involved? Could Israel have carried out such a large-scale operation on its own?
There are different factors indicating that, of course, United States and other Western countries like the UK, Germany, France, actually participants in the JCPOA, they were notified, they were aware of it. But it doesn't directly imply that they are participating and that they are participating in the efforts to shield Israel from Iranian attacks. I know that retaliatory attacks. I know that some specialists indicate that the fact that Iranian missiles this time penetrated the Israeli defense system, maybe it indicates that U.S. was not at least as actively involved as it was involved during the previous exchange between Israel and Tehran several months ago. But again, these are mere speculation at this point. I don't know what is the final position of the United States, but I haven't heard any confirmation from their officials that the United States are directly implicated in this attack. So I think we should be cautious, but at the same time, we totally support Iranian position about the fact that this is absolutely inadmissible and that nobody should be permitted to act as Israel does, and this is a total neglect and very dangerous provocation against international law, against everything that really keeps our world together, and it can trigger very, very serious consequences regionally and internationally.
Well, South Africa has condemned Israel's attack on Iran, stressing that targeting nuclear facilities violates the UN Charter and international law. Pretoria also called on both sides to exercise restraint and dismissed Israel's claims of self-defense as the reason for its strikes.
South Africa emphasizes that anticipatory self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter requires clear evidence of an imminent armed attack, which does not appear substantiated in this instance. South Africa urges maximum restraint by all parties and calls for the urgent intensification of diplomatic efforts to de-escalate tensions and promote stability in the Middle East. We support ongoing bilateral discussions, such as those between the USA and Iran, and reaffirm the critical importance of establishing a nuclear weapon-free zone in the Middle East.
Let's cross live now to RT correspondent Nulavu Kunge. Morning to you, Vuvu. There has been extremely strained relations between South Africa and Israel since the outbreak of the Gaza war, and the Ramaphosa government not backing down now either.
Absolutely, that is correct. And at this point, the South African government says it is deeply troubled by the attacks carried out by Israel, which targeted military sites, nuclear facilities and civilian infrastructures in Iran. South Africa is especially worried about the potential nuclear risk posed by assaults near nuclear sites, emphasizing and reiterating the IAEA stance, which condemns attacks on peaceful nuclear facilities. And while expressing those heartfelt condolences to the Iranian government and the families of the victims, Pretoria is emphasizing its commitment to resolving disputes peacefully, and it says it supports ongoing bilateral negotiations like those taking place between the United States and Iran. We haven't heard from other African countries as yet, but we do know for sure that Africa is expected to immediately feel the aftershocks of these attacks. Reports already tell us that the strikes have injected fresh uncertainties in countries like Ghana, and those are countries whose disinflation is lifted by those lower crude prices. The South African currency has also weakened since yesterday. And just beyond finance and diplomacy, there are also practical concerns here which are expected to affect food and fuel importers across East Africa, particularly those dependent on shipping routes that crosses the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. The Red Sea is already a volatile corridor. This has and is expected to continue, resulting in higher prices and mounting pressure in already fragile economies like Sudan, Ethiopia and Somalia. And when it comes to reactions within South Africa, we've heard from the Labour Federation, also known as SAFTU, which says that the act of aggression is not an isolated act, but a direct consequence of decades of US imperialism, which arms and funds Israel's apartheid regime to carry out genocide and destabilize the region. And we expect to hear from many other organizations and political parties in South Africa, because Pretoria is a vocal supporter of human rights, fighting for those Palestinian rights, and is also a long-standing ally of Iran. It did condemn, you would remember, Israel's October 2024 attacks as an unacceptable violation of Israel's sovereignty, and Iran has also openly supported that ICJ case accusing Israel of genocide in the Gaza Strip by South Africa. And right now, South Africa is emphasizing the need for adherence to international humanitarian law and the principles of the UN Charter.
Yeah, really interesting on those knock-on effects of the Iran-Israeli escalation. RT correspondent Nulavu Kunge. Well, next, the head of the Israeli-based Palestinian Nationalist Party, Balad, speaks to Afshin on Israel's latest militarized front and the experience of Arabs living in the Jewish state. The latest episode of Going Underground, right ahead.
I'm Afshin Rattansi, and welcome back to Going Underground, broadcasting all around the world from the heart of the Middle East. It's the 250th birthday today, not only